They were simpler times. So I'll finish off I don't know if I'll finish off the story because, like I said, it ends in a real shitty, sad place. And I like to imagine them, riding off in the sunset together, shouting at each other, and Timber just choking out dudes for laughs. Hold hands and close your eyes. It's midnight, and you're listening to the Ghost Story Guys. Welcome to the Ghost Story Guys. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Paul Bestel.
And this is the show where we talk about spooks, specters, and all the other things watching us from the shadows beyond the campfire. Some conversations only make sense after the sun has set, and this is most definitely one. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 233. And we're coming to you from that tiny mountain cabin you dream about, but can never quite reach. And Paul, this episode is going to start on a real bummer note.
Yes, I'm afraid so. But we have to deal with bad news first.
Yes, bad news, then good news. So we are very saddened to say here that we have lost a good friend of the Ghost Story Guys, Marc Semler, who you will, if you've listened before, you'll recognize his name from the credits. He was the manager of our Facebook community. He was a longtime patron, really a friend of mine at this point. He passed on January 20th. And he is deeply missed. We did not know he was ill. Marc was a very private guy. He kept that to himself. And so his death came as a surprise, as a shock, really. So it was very difficult and even more difficult for Marc's longtime partner, Michelle, who is dealing with not only his loss, but the loss of their 16-year-old dog, who had to unfortunately be put down in the days following Marc's passing because he himself became extremely ill. And I, as Paul knows, I received a notification just before we went to air of someone else who I know who passed. It's been a hell of a week here. And we had some plans for this episode. We were going to do a couple things, and then we thought, you know what? Let's take it easy. Let's just do a show for Marc. Going to be a show about not where he's from, but where he spent most of his time. Marc was very active with the Blue Pine Society, which was a charitable organization geared towards helping men overcome the stigma around testicular cancer. And so in doing so, he had made a lot of connections with breweries and restaurants in the Phoenix area. So we're going to do The Haunting of Phoenix in tribute to our friend Marc Semler, who is gone too soon. But in good news, Paul, we have a pretty sweet t-shirt available. I know this seems so fucking crass and commercial, but it's for a good cause, so I consider it acceptable. We are partnering with our good friends Dave and Sarge over at Cryptid Cocktail Party, along with a number of other shows and creators in the paranormal space, to put together a shirt that I'm very, very proud of. The design, you have to check out it for yourself, but we will say it is titled All My Homies Like Crushed Ice. And you can check that out at crushed.ice.bigcartel.com. And that's a black t-shirt, single design. It will only be available for 2 weeks when it launches. So you may only have a week when you finally hear this, but it is very cool. And of course, this is, even though I'm Canadian, Paul's from England, this is very much our way of helping our American friends who are dealing with some shit. All proceeds from this will go to the Defending Our Neighbors Fund, which is an organization in the U.S. which helps ICE detainees get legal representation, because that is not always easy given the situation. And so, again, that's crushed.ice.bigcartel.com. And big thanks to Dave and Sarge for including us on this. We're so stoked to be part of it. And all my homies prefer crushed ice. Oh, and if you're sitting there right now at Spotify, or you're going to Apple reviews, or you're just sitting thinking of writing us an email and bitching about you made the show political, go fuck yourself. Stop listening. I don't want you listening anymore. I'm tired of being nice about it. When you pull your head out of your ass, you can come back and you can listen. But for now, get fucked. Grow up. Read a book.
I've got several from focusing on 1920s and 30s history that may help them.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, Paul will read it to you in your. He'll whisper it into your ear. Hopefully some of it will sink into your fucking head. Anyways, I'm very angry, Paul. Sadness is gone. It's manifesting as rage. So I'm going to try and dial it back.
Well, works for the Hulk, doesn't it?
Boy, man, the Hulk, what an avatar for young men. My rage can be channeled into something useful.
Yes, it can. And so it should be.
Yeah, well, let's hope. So yes, all my homies prefer crushed ice. And yours should too. That's crushedice.bigcartel.com. Again, big ups to Dave and Sarge, who will probably make an appearance back on here at some point. And before we pay tribute to our fallen friend and explore some of the hauntings and some genuine, just kind of weird shit from around Phoenix, we're going to thank our patrons.
This one's for the patrons.
Patrons, we could not do what we do without you. So thank you. Thank you. For real, guys, every single person who downloads the Ghost Story Guys, you help make us who we are. But patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers, without you, I wouldn't be able to make the show. So thank you to every single one of you. And of course, we'd like to thank all of you individually, just because you're great. Unfortunately, we only have time to thank our most recent subscribers. They are
Leah
and Kat. Thank you so much from the bottom of our terrible hearts. Genuinely, this wouldn't happen without you guys. And if you want to get access to not only bonus conversations between myself and Paul, but episodes of shows like Host Adventures, Sunken Library, our monthly live stream, which just happened last night, which was a blast, our things like Ghost Force shoutouts, all kinds of good stuff. Oh, and of course, ad-free early release, which is the best part, because who wants to listen to ads? Not me, not you. We have them in the show. They're a necessary evil, but for even $1 a month, you don't got to listen to that shit anymore. And you can get all of that by clicking the link in the show notes or by heading to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. That's patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. All right. Well, it is time to explore the high strangeness of Arizona, which is a pretty strange place for a lot of reasons. It, as it turns out, did not offer its weirdness up as much as we thought it might. Stories were thin on the ground, but again, we still managed to find some cool stuff and a lot of peripheral weirdness. All right, Paul, would you like to take us through our first story?
I certainly will.
Perfect.
The Drive. First things first, I lived in Arizona at the time around the Phoenix area. Travelling out from Phoenix to one of the outer cities usually means driving for a few miles with no structures or facilities around you for several miles. I had to travel out of the city for a conference which was about an hour and a half away. I took the most direct path on the way there, but on the way back I was travelling around rush hour time. I know how the traffic works around there, and I knew that if I took the main highway, the usual 1.5 hour drive would turn into a 2 or more hour drive. Now, the way I get home, I could take two ways. One way, I would deal with a ton of traffic, and it would be at least a 2 hour drive, as I mentioned. The other would be no traffic until I got to about 5 miles of my neighbourhood. So I said, okay, you know what, I've got enough gas in my truck, and that route is a little more scenic anyways. I mean, all there was the desert and some bushes, but I mean, an open road is always better than a crowded highway. Taking this route would take the same amount of time during traffic hours, and I just absolutely hated traffic there in that city. So before I started my drive, I made sure I got an additional 3 gallons of gas just in case. I didn't want to be running short on fuel, since I'd never drove this route. I was only familiar with the other one. I went to the gas station, grabbed some water and some chips, and then began my drive back. When driving, I thought there would be more people taking this route, since everyone travelling back to the city would obviously be taking that direct route I mentioned. So I'm standing the drive, and I've only seen about 3 or 4 vehicles as I passed them. The speed limit was posted at 70 miles an hour, and these people were doing around 70, so of course I passed them. After about 30 minutes, I was getting pretty far down this highway, and I wasn't paying too much attention to my surroundings, but I know for sure that at the 30-minute mark, I hadn't seen any sort of structure or building for at least 10 minutes. Fast forward about another 20 minutes, and the only structure by that point we'd seen was about 5 miles back, and it was just a tiny, abandoned building. You could tell it was completely empty, and it was covered in typical graffiti. No cars, no people or vehicles, just simply nothing there. When I was driving, I did notice a heavy-set man wearing some blue jeans and a striped polo with a black baseball cap on and some boots. He looked as if he was just getting off of work, and he was standing directly next to the road facing towards it with his hands in his pockets. He was kind of stood off in a little bit of tall grass to the side of the road. Now, I couldn't see this man's face. I figured this was just because of his baseball cap, but I could tell he was looking at me as I came down the road. His head was directed towards me the minute I saw him in the horizon, and as I passed him by. This is all the experience it was. I just saw the man, saw his clothes, but I couldn't see his face. And I started thinking, is he hitchhiking? Is he stuck out here? And if he is, how did he get out here? As I saw him on the horizon, I also started looking around to see if maybe his car had broken down or was stuck, but there was nothing. Not on my side of the road, not on the other side of the road. It was just him. The last structure I saw was pretty far behind, and even there wasn't anything. This man was all by himself, dressed in what looked like his work clothes, just looking at me as I drove by. After driving, I kept looking in my rear view mirror, and I never saw him move at all until I couldn't see him again. It was just so bizarre to see this man out there in an open, untouched area. No working fields, no buildings, no facilities. Just the man.
I have experienced that, and that is a truly bizarre thing. And I still, to this day, don't know if I saw a ghost. I don't know what the fuck I saw. All I know is I was driving in Nevada, in the middle of nowhere, and there was an old man walking down the median. He was wearing blue jeans, I think, and a ball cap, but there was no one or nothing around. And he didn't appear to be in distress. He didn't even look at me as I drove past him. And I remember it taunted me for years, thinking I probably should have stopped, but I have no idea where he was coming from, where he was going. I mean, maybe it's possible there's someone who just like living in the desert like a trapdoor spider, but it seems unlikely.
It is a strange thing that seeing another human in a very isolated location often will instill immediate fear in a person.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, I'm playing Ghost of Yote right now, and every time I come across a random stranger, they try to cut my head off with a sword. So I imagine, that sort of thing just kind of gets into your genes at a certain point.
Yeah. Well, I always remember years ago hearing an interview where somebody said the most frightening thing you can ever encounter in the woods is another person.
Sure. That's it, right? You just don't know. You don't know if they're, a serial killer like us, or like, what are the odds we'll both meet here at the same time,
There was a serial killer that did knock about now in a national park, wasn't there? I forgot his bloody name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Oregon, I think it was. A few years ago, and he was attacking people on the trail.
Oh, Jesus.
They got him in the end, but I forgot his name.
Would that be Dayton Rogers?
Oh, no, I've got him. I know it is. Gary Hilton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He was known as the National Forest Serial Killer. And he was simply just randomly killing people in a variety of national parks in the US. He only killed 4 people, which is 4 too many, obviously, but still. He was caught. I mean, he's one of those as well that there are lots of unsolved murders in areas where he committed crimes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 unsolved murders in those particular locations where he then went on to murder other people.
Gotcha. I mean, I found another guy, this Dayton Leroy Rogers, who was called the Malala Forest, not Malala like Malala Yousafzai, but like Molala Forest, the Malala Forest murderer. And I got to say, looking at pictures of both him and Gary Hilton, you know how they say with serial killers quite often, oh, you'd never know, he was a quiet guy. Looking at these 2 fucking guys, no.
Yeah, Gary Hilton at best looks like a really large-scale meth producer.
At best.
At best.
At worst, they both look like the Muppet that killed the entire cast of Avenue Q.
Spoilers. So yeah, it's just weird, isn't it, when you bump into people in lonely locations. I mean, there has been a couple of ghost stories. Obviously here in the Peak District, we've got an infamous location known as the Dark Peak, which I've mentioned before, with lots of plane crashes on. And the wreckage is still there. You can visit them depending on the weather, because it's quite a hike. But it's melancholily beautiful in that weird way. And it is remarkable how much wreckage is up there. And there was once a couple of ghost hunters who went up there with a local guide. And he was taking them round and showing them certain locations and everything, and they were doing stuff. And he bent down. He noticed his shoelace was undone, so he bent down, started tying his shoelace up. As he stood up, these other two guys had just booked it and had just set off running back down the hill. And he's like, "What are you doing, lads? What's going on? Hang on!" And they wouldn't say it. They just... Phew. So he's like, "What's going on?" Right, chased them back to the car park. When they got there, these two guys were absolutely petrified. One got in his car and wouldn't get out, and the other one said, "As you bent down to tie your shoelace, this Air Force pilot just came out of the mist, full World War II outfit on, and just doffed his hat at them and went, poof, vanished." And they both bricked it, and that's why they ran off. And they never came back.
Yeah, no, I support this.
Yeah, and that was, I think, late 80s, early 90s, that.
Holy shit. Funny enough, I'm on the home stretch of recording These Haunted Times Volume 6, and I came across a story about the Peak District and the Dark Peak, and I'm like, oh man, Paul talks about that place. And then, of course, the story's from you. And I was reading your words, and I felt very weird reading your words for you. It didn't seem right. But I'm like, we can't just have him record there can't be like one lone voice that's someone else in this audiobook. That's going to be weird.
Yeah, it's a lovely story, that.
It is. Yeah, it's a great story.
Magical.
But just caught me off guard. There's like, oh shit, I know that guy.
Well, I don't like to boast when I'm in books,
No, of course, yes. You should boast more.
Well, always been my downfall.
We'll get you there. Speaking of English and horror things, I just finished watching a little while before recording, actually, The Severed Son. Have you seen this?
Oh, no, doesn't ring a bell.
It's came out, I think, last year. It's a folk horror shot in Cornwall.
Mm.
It's a post-apocalyptic folk horror.
Mm.
So it's set in a sort of post-collapse Cornwall. So there are roads, there like some of the figures of speech are modern, and so there are not wreckage, but there are foundations. They make great use of sort of existing foundations and things like this. But yeah, it's pretty solid. The end is a bit, I think it gets a bit muddled towards the end. But really, really good shit. And that's 2 for 2 as far as Cornwall horror goes, because Ennis Main is another Cornish horror film that is pretty goddamn good.
Yeah, well, it's a county steeped in magic, myth, and mystery.
It is that. Speaking of magic, myth, and mystery, I found another story of someone running into another person randomly in the desert near Phoenix.
Mm.
And what's funny is in a completely different thread from this story. It was just in like a random, so what's going on, Phoenix thread. So this guy's friend grew up in LA and moved to Phoenix at the age of 18. Said it was nothing, this was back in the 80s, and he said it was nothing then like it is now. It was not nearly as built up as it is. And so him and his friends used to go out in the desert and drink beer and smoke weed every weekend. Well, one weekend, they were having a party out there in the car, and a lady just walked out of the darkness and hung out with them. She stuck around for a while, and then sometime later, they realized she was gone. And they said there was nothing crazy about it. It's just they called to her, looked around, and that was it. And the kids kind of gave her a wide berth, thinking she was trouble. So she just kind of hung around on the fridges, not really saying much, laughing at what they laughed at, even when it was something more of an inside joke. And they were thinking, like, is this person a decoy? Are we going to get robbed? But no. But I guess the friend who told the story said that when she walked up, he got chills, and something told him not to engage with her directly. And you would say, okay, well, this is just a weird person. They're just kind of hanging out in the desert. Who knows? Again, trapdoor spider in human form. But 2 of the friends didn't see her and have no memory of her being there, which is pretty goddamn weird.
Yeah, that is strange.
Got to tell you, man, if I'm ever, I don't hang out in the desert by myself, first off. there's no countenancing this. I understand the third place is dead. We have nowhere else to go. But just, I don't know, dig out a fallout bunker and drink down there. Don't go do it out in the desert.
Make sure if you do, tell people where you are.
Yeah, also this.
We've all seen The Hills Have Eyes.
A figure in the desert. So I'm currently 20 years old, and this happened to me when I was either 16 or 17. I was out with a bunch of friends wreaking havoc around our hometown as teenagers do, and by about 9 or 10, a while after the sun had set, we spontaneously decided we wanted to go camping. Poof, that's the kind of shit you only do when you're a teenager. We live in Arizona, east of Phoenix, and in our area there was a lot of open desert where people often threw parties or camped or shot guns at random garbage for fun. If you look up the Superstition Mountains, you can get an idea of where we were. We went to our usual spot, got a fire going, and just hung out for a little bit. We didn't have any drugs or alcohol. In total, there were 6 of us. Myself, 4 other guys, and 1 girl. After a bit, 4 of us went to take a walk, while 2 of the guys stayed behind and kept the fire going / under control. We didn't have any flashlights or anything to light our way as we walked down a trail into the dark desert. However, it was mostly a full moon on a cloudless night, and we could pretty much see everything around us. Within like 50 feet of us, probably. Typically, we didn't go far from the campsite at night because the desert is a sketchy place, thank you, but with 4 of us, we knew we'd be all right. After we were out of view of our campsite, mostly due to lots of tiny hills more so than distance, we were all just talking and laughing when we noticed this weird glowing figure. It is very hard to describe accurately, but I would say that the figure was around 4 feet tall. We were maybe 25 feet from it. It appeared to glow a whitish-green color and stayed entirely still. One of my friends said it looked like a boy with a large glow, making him very blurred and difficult to see, but I personally just saw a blur of light. Also, my friend didn't mention this detail until the next day, so it could be made up, who knows. I don't know which one of us spotted it first, but it was all too obvious that all of us saw it, and all of us felt the urge to run. I instantly thought about horror movies where people get split up and are even more vulnerable, and quietly and calmly told my friends not to run, because if it were any kind of animal, mountain lion, bobcat, coyote, etc., it would get startled and attack. There were also some free-range cattle out there, so we didn't need an angry bull, though this definitely wasn't a bull. We all slowly walked back towards the campsite with myself and one of the guys watching to make sure nothing followed us. The figure was quickly hidden by a small hill after we walked for maybe 30 seconds. At this point, my rationality kicked in, and I decided that we had to have been seeing things. My logic was, there are lots of old street signs and random crap like that in the desert, possibly the moon reflected off a sign, and we overreacted. My friends agreed, and we cautiously walked back over the hill and towards where we saw the figure. It wasn't until we had walked past where the figure was standing that we realized it was gone. At this point, we were pretty freaked out, so we went back to the fire quickly and carefully. At the campsite, the other 2 guys thought we were pranking them, but we started hearing this squealing, chirping noise, almost like a bird, but much more distorted and creepy sounding. It sounded like it was approaching us. By this point, our nerves got the best of us. We dumped a ton of water on the fire, packed the trunk, and got out of there. We searched 2 or 3 more times for the figure in the following week, both during the day and at night, but never saw anything similar to it again. And despite that experience, we camped there again without anything out of the ordinary happening. I still don't know what it was. And Paul, there's that goddamn weird bird sound again. Because we had that in, was it the Haunting of British Columbia episode, and I think one other place.
Yeah.
Where someone heard like a facsimile of a bird.
Yeah. Well, anywhere near the Superstitious Mountains is a bit, got to be careful there.
Oh, really? So what are some of the stories associated with it?
Well, it's infamous. It's the alleged site of the Lost Dutchman's mine.
Oh, okay. I saw some mention of this in some of the threads I was looking at, but I didn't look deeper because I assumed you would know.
Yeah, so the legend of the lost gold mine, which is a bit strange because obviously you've got this very convoluted origin story of some Mexicans, I think, found it, who were then attacked as they were trying to take the gold away by a band of Apaches who murdered them and then covered the treasure up again. And then stories began to circulate of this lost gold mine in the Superstitious Mountains, which kind of set off a bit of a boom and people trying to find it. And obviously, it's one of those things. Ironically, I watched something about this which made me understand something about Predator, right?
Oh, okay.
Because the guy that really cements the legend of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine is German. And so it's not Dutch, it's Deutsch, which is German for Germany, Deutschland. And so that's been shortened to Dutch. So it's actually the Lost German mine, not the Lost Dutchman. So it's quite strange. And that's why Dutch character has a German accent or an Austrian accent in Predator, Dutch, because he's German, Austrian, whatever. Because I was thinking, why is he called Dutch? Americans don't know the difference. Yeah, why is he called Dutch when he doesn't talk like this, right? Because that's how the Dutch speak in English. They've got this lovely little sort of bouncy voice that they use, and it's very nice. And so that kind of set me down there. And obviously, this guy who claimed to have found it, he also was attacked and only survived by the skin of his teeth, but spent the rest of his life seriously ill, and was taken in by a woman who looked after him. And he, on his deathbed, he gave her the location of the mine and a massive nugget of gold and said, I'm going to die now, here you are. So then she's called Julian Moore or something, decided to employ a couple of other prospectors. They went out. They only lasted 3 weeks, nearly died. So from dehydration, the horses ran off, got spooked in the location. They basically had to walk all the way back and escape with their life. She then started writing and drawing maps and notes about it all. However, the following year from that, there was a massive flood in the area, and 2 enormous seams of gold were found.
Oh, shit.
In 2 caves. I think one was called Mammoth Cave, and I can't remember what the other one was. And I think you're talking massive amounts of gold and silver were located in these 2 locations. However, people have still continued searching it, and there's just been some really weird shit that's happened to people that have gone looking for it. Probably the most famous case about that is a gentleman who was called Adolf Ruth, who was an amateur explorer. And back in the 30s, he set out once again to try and find it. 6 months later, his sun-bleached skull with 2 bullet holes in it was recovered. And then I think he was found under his body. His skeleton was found under a tree next to a river. And they searched the area further down there. There was a river. There was a bottle with a note in it that said he'd found it. And he was sitting under the tree because he'd broken his leg and he needed help. And if you find this note, you need to tell such and such. But everything, all his maps and everything were gone. All his belongings had disappeared. So it's one of those. But then I think 15 years later, there was another guy that went out there. They found his body and not his head. Somebody else who went investigating the case of that guy claimed that he only escaped by the skin of his teeth because he was chased around the area by a mysterious sniper. I think, when was that? There was another guy who went out there hiking about 2009, 2010, vanished. He was found wedged in a crevice. And then there were another 3 explorers about 15 years ago went out there looking for it. They disappeared, and then about 3 weeks later, after they vanished, their bodies were found.
Jesus Christ! So this is dangerous land.
Well, that's what because the area has a reputation of strangeness and danger, and that is why it's called the Superstitious Mountains.
That makes sense.
So, but yeah, primarily it's most famous for allegedly being the site, which, as I say, there is historical fact that 2 very large seams of gold were found there after all this, and people suggest that was probably it. However, the legend will not die, unlike some of the people that go looking for it.
Well, I know I'm not breaking any new philosophical ground when I say this, but people will go through shit for the promise of gold. Like, more so, I think, even than money. There is something about gold. Funny enough, I was just talking about this with a friend of mine. That period when I went and lived up in the bush on a gold claim for 2 weeks back in 2000 and I want to say 3 or 4. And I didn't really want to go, but the woman I was dating, or I guess girl I was dating at the time back then, she was convinced that her family were that her family were the only people who were going to survive in North America after a giant earthquake had flooded all of us out. So she wanted me to come up so I would survive with them. And I could only put up with her insane family for 2 weeks before I was like, bring on the flood. I'll manage. But anyways, yeah. And like, I went up there because I was kind of dating this girl and I kind of got pressured into it. But like her parents, her mom and her stepdad, they had gold fever, man. They lived in a cabin, just a ramshackle cabin in the woods, 80 kilometers from the nearest town, 40 from the nearest neighbor. And they would get sick of it. And they'd start to think, maybe this is stupid. Maybe we should go, back and get normal jobs. And then they'd find a little nugget, just enough to pay for a piece of machinery or to pay for their fuel. And that alone, that would keep them going. And they kept at the shit for years. And according to them, they were always certain the big strike is just around the corner. It's major sunk cost fallacy vibes. And I want to say maybe close to a decade they did this shit with. And again, they never got rich. They eventually ended up managing like a hotel, Motel 6 or something. Like it just didn't work out. But the promise of this massive golden payout kept them going way longer than it should have.
I mean, you've got that. There's so many stories of lost treasure. It does seem to be the one thing that, be it lost on pirate ships or stolen. There was that Confederate gold story from about 10 years ago in Pennsylvania. Have you heard that one?
No, I don't think so.
There's an organisation there. I think they're called Finders Keepers, which is a great name for a treasure hunting organisation. They claim to have found a bullion of gold in a cave in Pennsylvania. And similarly to the UK, if you find treasure, you have to report it to the authorities. So they reported it to the authorities. And allegedly, the FBI came and stole the lot.
Okay.
And this has now been going on for years, this battle between these guys and the FBI. The FBI say it didn't happen. However, they've got the record saying, well, the FBI were told about it. Now they're saying they don't know what we're talking about. We've got letters. What are you talking about? So they reckon they stole, they think it was worth between 500 million to £1 billion.
Holy shit.
It was a substantial amount it was Confederate gold that was they were trying to get it out the way before the end of the war.
Right.
And they got rumbled or they had to hide it or something. And these guys found it and then the FBI were informed and it went.
I mean, I would say that this is kind of a great way to punk the Confederacy, having the victors take their money, 100 years later. But half those fuckers are in the government anyways. So it's at best a draw.
I mean, it could have been worse. They could have bumped into the Mogollon Monster, couldn't they?
The Mogollon Monster?
That's their Bigfoot in Arizona.
Oh, I didn't know they had a Bigfoot.
Yeah, everybody is. But there's only Hawaii that doesn't.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's seen on the Mogollon Basin, which is, I think, in the northeastern part of Arizona.
Okay, and he's
dozens of
typical
sightings.
Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Big, hairy. So how the fuck does he manage? Because it's hot as shit there, man.
I think he lives like a trapdoor spider, mate. It's quite it's quite forestry up there. It's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning scenery up there. It could quite easily support a large creature.
Okay, there we go. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's tons of sightings of the Mogollon Monster.
And so, like typical behavior, like rock throwing and that kind of jazz.
Yeah. He's nocturnal, omnivorous, territorial, and occasionally extremely violent. He's known for mimicking birds, coyotes, and other wildlife. Though maybe it's just birds and coyotes. No. But there's been sightings reported since the turn of the 20th century.
I'll be damned.
I mean, there were grizzlies down there, so people have, once again, people are stupid, they don't know where a bear is, kind of excuse, which seems to be a thing about explaining anything strange in Phoenix, that they presume witnesses are idiots.
Oh, yes, we're especially with their most famous case, which we're going to be talking about here in a little bit.
Yeah, and their most famous 40th case, anyway, yes.
Before we move on to the next story, I just want to say, you mentioned, this is why Schwarzenegger had that accent in Predator. And let's face it, Schwarzenegger's got that accent in everything because that's what Schwarzenegger has. I was scrolling through Instagram the other day, and they were talking to Bill Hader, and I guess he was a a production assistant on the film Collateral Damage, which came out, was meant to come out shortly after 9/11.
Yeah.
And the film was heavily reworked because that wasn't going to happen because there's some shit in there that was not on at the time. But Arnold, with his accent, his character's name, Gordy Brewer. If ever there was a guy who sounded like a Gordy, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Two Budweisers, please.
Yeah, I was born in Dakota. Sure you were, buddy. Sure you were. Joe Everyman right here.
Creep. One time when I was getting ready to head home on the Metro light rail from my last day at Phoenix Comic Con, when I met up with a strange guy wearing a long black trench coat and sunglasses. He'd some facial hair, sported some hardcore dreads, and generally gave off a very creepy vibe. He was waiting at the metro stop I needed to wait at to also catch the last train back into Mesa, so there was no real way I could avoid him. Therefore, I tried to stand as far away as possible and avoid eye contact, but this guy then walked over and started to make small talk with me. I'm thinking that the last thing I want to do is aggravate this guy, as I don't know what he's capable of and have no idea what his intentions are. So I decided just to smile and nod. I was pretty much fading in and out of him, listening to him drone on about creepy topics, such as why he left wife. Sorry. I was fading out in that sentence. I was pretty much fading in and out of listening to him drone on about creepy topics, such as why his wife had left back in Africa so he could find more wives to take back with him in the States, and how he was looking for a girl for a one-night stand. I listened, nodded, and I made it clear that I wasn't gonna be his one-night stand. I did this tactfully, mind you, because he was creepy, and there's really no one around to help me. It was also eerily quiet for being in the middle of downtown Phoenix. As the guy moved on to even weirder subjects, I began to scan the area subtly for places I could run into in case this guy decided to snap and do something drastic. I happened to look out since around the same time the last train arrived at the station. I told the guy I had to find my seat and board it as quickly as I could. Unfortunately, so did the same guy, and he followed me to the section that had a lot of people in it. I sat in a seat and I felt my stomach tighten when the man sat right beside me. He kept trying to talk to me about wanting a one-night stand and how he'd love to have a female friend to take her around to see the city. I told him I still wasn't interested and tried to ignore him the best I could. Thankfully, or rather unthankfully, he moved on to asking other girls in the same train cabin if they wanted to hang out, to which they either flat out ignored him or told him to buzz off. Realising he couldn't get anywhere with them, he unfortunately turned his attention back towards me. Now this is where things started to get really weird, and the event took a somewhat supernatural turn. All of a sudden, my eyes began to water. I got this really bad headache to the point I could barely sit up in my seat. My head became so heavy that I placed my head in my hands. Tears were streaming out of my eyes and my body was aching all over. Even the creeper was weirded out and had no idea what was going on. The rest of the passengers in the cabin were concerned for my condition, so they reached out and started giving me water or medication, anything to help me relieve my sudden pain. One person suggested that I should call someone I know and let them know what was going on, so I called my mum and told her about my sudden condition. I told her I needed to be picked up at the metro station and taken home. I didn't mention my encounter with the creepy guy since he was sitting right next to me still, and I didn't want to aggravate him. My mum said she'd pick me up when I got off. After I'd hung up, I put my head back in my hands. My ears were still tearing and my head was pounding. At this point, the guy was freaking out, telling people I was faking it, and I was fine earlier when I was talking to him. The people around kept giving him dirty looks, and he was eventually pressured to leave the train, or so it seemed. However, when most of the people had gotten off the train, the guy reboarded a few stops down. Now it was only me and him on the train, and I was alone and there was no one to help me. I honestly thought I was gonna die. He kept fingering something in his backpack, which I got the feeling was a gun, a knife, or even some other weapon. The only thing I could think to do was pray. I was sick, I had a headache, I couldn't move, and my eyes were still tearing. I was seemingly the perfect prey for this creeper. He sat right next to me again and kept being a weirdo again. I just continued to pray in my head, calling protection around me, and asked God to get me out of this situation. Now this next part is the weirdest detail of the whole story. It should have been a further 3 or 4 stops to the downtown Mesa light rail station, but almost immediately after I began to pray, we reached the last station. There's no rational way I can explain this. All I know is that when I noticed it was the last stop, I gathered my things and got off the train as briskly as I could. I called my mum and told her I was going to meet her again, in the parking lot. The weirdo at this point had once again followed me, but seemed confused and like he didn't want to get involved since there was a large crowd of people at the stop, so he shook my hand, said it was good to meet me, mumbled some other stuff and wandered off in a daze. I think he was genuinely shocked that we got to the light rail station as fast as we did. He boarded the light rail again, and I never saw him again. Immediately after the man boarded the departing train, my sudden illness disappeared. It was like he brought the illness, and when he left it returned with him. When my mum came to pick me up at the light rail station, I told her all about my adventure with the crazy dude. She was just grateful that nothing awful had happened to me and took me home. To this day, I really believe that something supernatural intervened and protected me from that man. There's no telling what he would have done if the train hadn't arrived as quickly as it did, and if my sudden illness hadn't brought attention to my situation that alerted the other passengers of this strange man's behaviour. The what-ifs of the situation aren't something I like to think about, but I'm thankful that I made it out of that station alive.
Does this guy know he's being a creepy piece of shit? I would assume so. I would assume that, the social mores are not that different. That saying like, boy, I sure would like to have someone have sex with right now to a lone woman on a train is weird, no matter where you go.
Well, having spent as many years as I did in the bar trade, I'm not as surprised of anything certain people will say to women if they seem to have no filter. Regardless of the supernatural aspects of that particular story, it's a terrifying, real situation, sadly, for a lot of women find themselves in.
Oh, shit, yeah. Well, I was just talking to my friend. She was at work, and she was saying that this older gentleman, this older fella came up to her, he's missing most of his front teeth, and said, hey, I'm a truck driver, and you should come down to Florida with me. We can go take my truck. You don't have to pay for a place to stay. And it'd be really nice. I'll show you all around. And then he starts telling her about his violent past in the Hells Angels. And this is someone she's been around some shit. So she's like, no, he was serious. He wasn't talking shit. This guy was definitely full patch. But you won't come down in my truck? No. Emphatically no. God, the thought terrifies me. When she was younger, she was kind of clueless when people were hitting on her because she couldn't understand that she was attractive. And so when I met her, one of the things I kind of impressed upon her was like, when someone says, hey, would you like to go for a ride in my truck? That's not because they want to show off their new truck, and things like this. But, now obviously she's creeping up on 40 and she's like, well, there was another one today. This one wanted to take me in his truck down to Florida. And that, as we all know, is not a trip from which you come back.
I've seen some men say some very strange things to young women in public. And you just think, it makes your toes curl.
Oh, I believe it. Yep. Yeah, I am so conscious of that shit. The coffee shop I used to go to all the time before I just started making coffee at home, it turned out that a couple of the baristas were into horror movies. And somehow it came up that I was also I write horror and I'm into horror movies. So for a little while we would talk about horror movies, but I was always very cautious. I'm like, these are literally young enough to be my kids. So I have to make sure this conversation stays very brief, because the last thing you want to be is a guy who's just hanging around going, who's working today? Can they talk to me? I'm sad and alone. You don't want to be that
guy. But as to what happened, who knows? I mean, sometimes something does help in certain situations where the shit is literally about to hit the fan.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about that. It seems like a very ugly kind of thing to have happened, but at the same time, it seems like it kept her out of further danger. So it's like a little bit of pain now to avoid a disastrous outcome later.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about that kind of coming over with this sudden sort of pain and headaches and tearing up and all that. And that might be some kind of, I don't know, some kind of internal alarm system reacting to this malevolent presence that this weird freak's giving off to her. And when he went, that's why she stopped, because her protection wasn't required anymore. She wasn't in danger.
Just her brain detonating. It's like, this is better than having to talk to this fucking guy. Boom.
Yes. Yeah.
Or speaking of shit women have to put up with, this is a really fucked up case I found, that there is a wrinkle to it which seems to have been forgotten as time has gone by. So it was a double murder in Phoenix. It was two women, a woman and a roommate were killed. So I'm going to read a little quick piece from Arizona Central. It says, Phoenix roommate's murder unsolved 5 years later. If there is any good fortune for Rachel Glass to speak of on December 3rd, 2010, it was her decision not to drop by her daughter Nicole's house that afternoon. She had planned on helping Nicole install a printer in the home she and her roommate Melissa Mason shared near 44th Street and Thomas Road. But after a long day of work, Rachel decided the errand could wait until the weekend. Had she gone, it likely would have been Rachel knocking on the door, Rachel peeking into a back window, Rachel, the first to catch a glimpse of a lifeless body lying on the floor. And both women, 27 years old, were strangled to death. As best as I understand it, one of them was pregnant, and there has never been anyone arrested for it. Now, the police at the time said they were suspecting the partners of the women, which, is a natural thing to jump to. But I found a mention of something that when I went to go look for it, it was gone. I actually had to pull it out of the Wayback Machine. But it is a piece from Fox News, or like a Fox affiliate, published on, pardon me, I don't know when it was published, but the headline is, Family Follows New Lead in 2010 Double Murder. Unsolved since December 2010, the murders of Nicole Glass, Melissa Mason, and Mason's unborn child. The roommates were strangled to death in their Phoenix home, and police never determined a motive. But Rachel Glass, mother of Nicole, has refused to give up. She has recently received information that her daughter may have been a confidential informant for the Phoenix Police Department before her murder. The 27-year-old was involved in a large drug conspiracy and money laundering case, but the family doesn't know exactly who she may have been talking to police about. In a lawsuit filed Tuesday morning, attorneys claim Nicole was used to gather information about criminal activity and dangerous individuals. The attorney says, "We believe there will be information that comes to light that indicates police did not take adequate steps to protect her. At this point, though, the lawsuit will enable us to find out more information. It gives a gateway to find out what really happened. There are individuals in the police department that know the details of her work for them." And the Phoenix police did release a statement to Fox 10 saying the police department has been aggressively investigating this homicide since it occurred in 2010. Although the case remains open, to date, investigators have not found any evidence to support this recent claim. So it's a horrifying case with just that bizarre wrinkle thrown into the middle of it. And as I say, I found a retrospective from 2023, and there doesn't appear to be any mention of that allegation at all. So I'm wondering either it was proven false or the police just stonewalled until it went away. Either of which I would believe.
Well, they have got, I know at the minute they have got an unsolved serial case down there. But it's not a serial killer case, it's a serial shooter. I think it's the I-10 case. About 10 years ago, there was just 11 cars shot. I think there was a little girl injured. And they arrested somebody, and then it ended up not being him at all. And he ended up winning $1 million of damages for defamation. And then, strangely enough, 10 years after all this, he decided to run in the Republican primary. And at the time, the sheriff came out and said, yeah, he's definitely done it. I don't care what anybody says, he's done it. So then he started another legal case saying they'd done it. And he didn't win. He didn't win the nomination. He finished second. So, but that one's unsolved. They haven't got anybody for that 10 years on.
Jesus Christ. I figures he'd be running on that ticket.
So who knows? I mean, they've not had many, but that's the only one as far as I'm aware that they've got unsolved there, because they had that really freaky situation in 2006 where you had two separate serial killers who were basically reading the news about each other. And so you had two guys who were just driving around randomly shooting anybody walking about on their own, who ended up getting grassed up by someone who was very concerned about their behaviour. And so they somehow managed to bug their house, and they heard them talking about, who is this other serial killer? He's on 7 now. We've got to up our game. And so they were treating it as a competition. These two weirdos. Lord. And then everything fell into place and they got them both. And that was crazy. And that was going on. I think they were known as the spree shooters or something. But you'd also got this other guy running around called the Baseline Killer. And he was responsible for dozens of sexual assaults, 9 murders, breaking and entering, everything. And it ended up being this guy who was really well respected in the community called Marc. And if you ever see his court case, it's one of those weird ones where they allow the perpetrator to speak to and he gives this bullshit like, I'm just a really nice guy and all. They've got all this fucking. Here's the thing: they've got his DNA all over places, right? He clearly committed. Even if it, not murdered anybody, he committed tons of breaking and in and sexual assault. He was a piece of shit. And his family's going, he's not done it, he's been set up. He'd got belongings of murdered women in his house that he claimed to have found in a pawn shop. What, 6 times? Fuck off. So, yes, but basically you've got these two guys. They were both arrested around the two who were driving around just randomly shooting people. And then you got Godot doing the same, obviously slightly different. That's how they knew there were 2 separate things going on. You can only imagine what the police department must have thought at the time.
I assume it was something like Z, as they ignored it entirely. And one last thing I want to mention, just this is like a little urban legend I found. Literally, it's the only place I could find it was this thread. But there is an urban legend about a company called Midnight Productions Films. And it's supposedly, some people say they do human trafficking and snuff films and things like this. There's no other mention of this anywhere, but it is apparently has been a Phoenix area legend since the 90s. So that's let's hope it's just an urban legend.
Let's.
All right. So next up, Paul is going to give us a quick breakdown on the most famous Phoenix case. And of course, that is the Phoenix Lights. Take it away, my friend.
It was just flares. That's all it was.
Oh, there we go. Problem solved. Cue the outro music.
I mean, it's one of the most laughable explanations ever, because it works on the principle that if you accept the official explanation, which they took 3.5 months to come up with, 1,800 people at the moment who have come forward and said that they saw something that night. The explanation is it was the Air Force dropping flares. However, everybody that reported seeing something saw a large triangular craft fly from one end of Arizona to the other. Most people saw it over Phoenix. And so what the people saw outside of Phoenix could not be the flares because they couldn't see them from where the army said they dropped them. And also everybody said, well, that's not it. You also had one kid who claimed it was a group of paragliders that were flying over the area. And so the media ran with that as well. But the other strange thing about it is that everybody that saw it on the night was convinced that they would see it on the news the next day. Convinced. Because there was no way nobody else didn't see it. And there was nothing. And nobody mentioned it in the press, even nationally, for 3 months. And then it suddenly appeared in June 1997. And it hit the news. And people were like, what's going on here? And so the explanation of it being flares completely contradicts everybody. Like I say, there's a brilliant interview that a woman and her family, just after all this, it might have been a year or so after, ended up going on Art Bell with Peter Davenport, Dr. Lynn Keatai, who's become synonymous as the Phoenix Lights lady. She's the former medical practitioner who's built this Phoenix-like museum and has collected all the witness accounts and statements and video interviews, and they've built this enormous place for people to come and share their experiences and what it meant, and obviously filmed them as well. But she'd seen them the week before, people saw them the week after. And so they all described seeing this enormous giant craft. But this woman and her family said it was so low over their house, her children came out and started waving at it.
Jesus Christ.
And they watched it for like 10 minutes, just go over the house. You've got the infamous press conference where Fife Symington, who was the mayor of Phoenix, I think, at the time, or might have been the governor or something, did his famous press conference and said, we found out what it was, and then he brought out his mate dressed as an alien. Just basically made all the witnesses feel like shit. Frances Barwood, who was with the local councillor, who said, all my constituents are asking me what the hell's been going on here. She was basically ostracised by the local council and called a nutter. The papers ran hit pieces on her, did drawings of her wearing tinfoil hats and sat in a straitjacket, just basically shit all over her. And then 15 years later, Fife Symington comes out and says, yeah, I was told to do all that. I saw them as well. I am a witness, and I'm very sorry for what I did.
Huh. Jesus Christ.
And it'll be 30 years next year.
And there is a very famous witness, is there not?
Well, here's the thing. And this is one of those moments I said, I was there when this happened. So Kurt Russell was doing a press tour in the UK for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and it was around the time of the Phoenix Lights. And so they were doing a fluff piece on the very sort of middle of the road, bland sort of lifestyle program we have here in the UK called The One Show,
right,
where they'll be talking about menstruation and then start talking about the best fertilizer to put on your garden or something. They just leap into like really weird tangents. You're like, what? What's going on? Who's writing this script? But anyway, and so Kurt was on and they did all this thing. And so they came back after it and they said, well, what do you think about that, Kurt? And he said, well, I saw them because I'm the pilot that phoned that in. He was the first person that contacted the Air Force and said, there's strange lights over Phoenix. Could you tell? Because he was flying a plane, because he's obviously a qualified pilot, and he was coming in because they live around there at the time. And so Kurt Russell was the guy that ran the Air Force to say, there's something over Phoenix. And was very, yeah. He said, I've been flying for years. I've never seen anything like that in the sky. It's not flares. And I was sat there like, what? What? What has happened here? I'm not far back. I'm not sure how far back the BBC iPlayer goes for that particular show. But I would imagine that segment is available somewhere. So if you want to see Kurt Russell tell you about when he saw the Phoenix Lights, and he's the guy, and not clearly taking this conversation very seriously, which completely threw everybody else on the show, then go and watch it. So yeah, Kurt Russell was the guy that raised the alarm.
That's just so bizarre. I know Phoenix Lights is that the biggest single UFO sighting in terms of witness count?
Yes, it's supposedly. I mean, to be fair, I can't think of anything that comes close to it.
And I know we have some folks listening who are not really into UFO stuff, but I think it's good for you not to think of it as aliens, but as a different manifestation of some of the things we talk about in regard to, say, like ghosts. Because I genuinely believe these things are connected somehow. I don't think they are otherworldly craft. I think they exist in the same strange liminal space that the rest of the paranormal does. It's just hard to quantify. Okay, and so just before our last story, I found this other thing. It's only tangentially related to Phoenix, but I like parts of the story so much, I had to share it. Now, like a lot of stories from what we would call sort of, the Wild West era, it ends in tragedy. So I want to kind of lock that in before we get going. Before anyone starts thinking, boy, I want to see what the further adventures of these two hold. It's human mortality, sadness, and tragedy. Just prepping you now. The new Peaches album is called No Lube, How Rude. This is us. We're doing our due diligence here. All right. So this story comes from a book I found on the Internet Archive. It is called Ghosts in American Houses. It's by James Reynolds. It was published in 1955. And it is the story of Bella Rawhide and Timber Kate. So I'm going to read you directly from the book here. This glittering pair were known from Spokane to Santa Fe, except for a 10-year interval when Bella, after a mighty battle with Timber, went to Carson City and ran a whorehouse of her own. They were almost inseparable. For some years during the split-up, Timber Kate, a gigantically tall woman of great strength, worked her con game alone. An unusual feature of her approach was her use of haymakers, which she employed in place of the knockout drops usually administered to male clients by prostitutes. The punch in the jaw that Timber Kate delivered at the drop of the hat was never equaled, or so the receivers said, by any pugilist before or since. And just quickly on that, man, like obviously, sex workers stealing from Johns is not a new thing. But boy, I would prefer the knockout droplet method than a roundhouse from a tree turned into a human by a terrible wish. All right, so the story goes on. Whether these girls were actually blood sisters or not. Oh yeah, no, they're not fucking sisters. They mentioned that in the first paragraph. I thought it was so stupid, it wasn't even worth bringing up. No, of course they weren't fucking sisters. But they had to tell everyone that because, it was 18 fuckity and people then did not have an ounce of sense in their skull. So, author goes on to say, whether these girls, we're going to ignore that. Sister acts on the stage of saloons and in bawdy house demonstrations were the style. It was in the cards that these two should claim to be sisters. In Bella's last days, when she was never sober and all her mottled past rose up to confront her, she would, when on the verge of delirium tremens, shout out to all and sundry that Timber Kate was not her sister at all, but her mother. The big old sow, Bella would cry. She sent me to work in the mining camps when I was a brat. I supported her for years. Rot her, let me at her. Where is she? Then a wild chase would ensue, usually ending in bloody heads and broken bottles. But the first time Bella Rawhide and Timber Kate danced in a saloon in Spokane, not only the floorboards sagged, but the rafters rang with a tumult of sound from their combined voices. Timber roared like a bull, and Bella screeched like a chimpanzee. Okay? Such caterwauling had never been heard before, even in the roughest dives, and the robust characters who frequented these dens loved it. Overnight, this pair of females in red tights and gold spangles made a tremendous hit. The songs they sang were for men only. After their nightly performance on the boards, the vitality of their behavior on the mattresses was unique. No doubt about it. Bella and Timber were the rage. Bella, a medium-sized natural honey blonde, had big, bulging blue eyes and a loose-lipped mouth. Timber Kate, who stood 6'6" in bare feet, was muscular as a stevedore and as raucous a voice. She sported an unruly shock of carrot-red curls, and her eyes, which were muddy brown, had a hard gleam in their depths. Oh, be still, my beating heart. Timber, I know we're playing for the same team, but still. The one feature the two had in common was the mouth. Loose and big in Bella's face, and Timber's it opened like an immense gulch. That is a weird way of saying that. They're not sisters, man. The way they differed most was in temper. Bella, during most of her life, was as agreeable as a sunny May morning, with a wide smile of welcome for all men and most women. Timber Kate was a horse of another color. She hated everybody, or so she liked to yell, "Bring 'em on, the bastards! Stand 'em up and Timber will knock 'em down so fast it'll make your hair curl." A fight was what Timber was on the lookout for, 24 hours a day. Nevertheless, she proved to be a good businesswoman, in contrast to Bella, who was the prize pushover. "I always get their money first, before I hang them on their shadow with my special punch. I never lose," Timber said. Up and down the trails following the prospectors' towns, Bella and Timber rolled. Towns that were built in a day blared forth in improbable prosperity for a while, and became ghost towns as quickly as they had risen. Bella and Timber were always in demand, because they had original viewpoint and entertainment. Just before their 10-year separation, Bella staged a dance that sent the audience wild. She came on the stage clothed in a green-spangled fig leaf and nothing else. I think I've seen this show at the Palms in Vegas. For a small pouch of gold dust, a man could remove a spangled leaf. Oh, sorry, she had multiple leaves, pardon me. The fellow who removed the last leaf could carry her off to bed. The finale of this dance, called Eve's Leaves, was a high note in border entertainment. This is a striking indictment of border entertainment, I think. For the most part, Timber did not care for men. She made no shit. She made no bones about it. Prostitution was her trade. "Same as a dishwasher," she would say. "Nobody rightly likes to wash greasy dishes, but it's a living. Same way I feel about whoring." And I wanted to read this just for that, quite frankly. I love this woman. She sounds amazing. Can you imagine being the guy who pays? Like you have a very particular thing. You walk in that room, you look at her, and you'll be like, okay, I'm going to lay down, and you just step on my neck until I start to go blue, then please stop. Or maybe that's part of the appeal. I don't know. That's not my jam. Yeah, but
some people are into, what is it, auto asphyxiation erotica?
Autoerotic. Yeah. The problem is, it doesn't sound like Timber Kate would let go.
No.
I just think she might get her blood up and kind of start enjoying it. You know, like sometimes when I'm out drinking and I have a couple shots and I think, I could go for a few more of those, you know? Old Timber feels your hyoid bones starting to like wobble a little bit. She's like, hey, now we're having a party. Ka-cha.
There were simpler times, weren't they?
They were simpler times. So I'll finish off I don't know if I'll finish off the story because, like I said, it ends in a real shitty, sad place. And I like to imagine them, you know, riding off in the sunset together, shouting at each other, and Timber just choking out dudes for laughs. But as in every story, when you have a great couple, someone comes in and ruins it. And in this case, it was Tug Daniels.
Not Tug.
Yes, not Tug. Goddamn Tug, every time. Tug turned up at the Red Shiner Saloon in Phoenix, and he was a real son of a bitch, as will surprise no one. Supposedly, he, quote, drilled a prospector in the shoulder just for quiet, you understand. He was according to the author, a little weaselly, bow-legged critter from nowhere. He dressed in the garish style often affected by the half-breed Mexican pimps who trafficked in Carson City and Butte. Okay, I don't know how to feel about that. Yeah. Anyways, we're going to move past it. A rat face, lank black hair worn in greasy pointed sideburns, a mouthful of ragged yellow teeth, and a leathery yellow skin riddled with pockmarks added little to his charm. One feature, however, arrested the beholder: huge liquid brown eyes, the eyes of a lovesick Mexican senorita. What? It must have been a hell of a lot easier to publish a book in 1955. Tug was not one to neglect the value of the romantic eyes he had inherited from his Mexican mother. He used them as the cobra uses its forked tongue.
I think you'll find cobras use their venom.
This guy's never seen a snake. I don't know that he's ever seen a person from Mexico. No, yeah, a lot of shit he's never done.
Yeah. Everybody wants a cobra in India because cobras eat other snakes.
Not Tug.
Oh, maybe he did.
Tug was a killer, but he took what he wanted first. He had heard by the desert grapevine that Bella and Timber were rich from a long, highly successful career. He proposed to take them one at a time. What he did not bank on was that both women would fall for him. One with the young girl's romantic enthusiasm, the other with venomous passion. I don't think that's falling for him. One woman fell for his shit. The other woman wanted to pull his head off like a grape.
Took it off, literally.
When Tug Daniels decided to seduce Bella first and paid her open court, Timber raged in anger. A few nights after Tug's arrival at the Red Shiner, he danced with Bella, who had dressed the part of enchantress to the hilt. In bright purple satin, looped with orange silk poppies, she filled the eye to over... Oh, fuck off. God. Tug grasped her by both hips and sailed out onto the dance floor. Timber, who was sitting at a side table tossing straight whiskeys with the regularity of the drummer's beat, finally blew her top. Leaping up, she pushed...
Does he know people without two hips? Does he have to tell us that he grabbed both of her hips? Surely hips. It's plural. Is it not? Surely it should be both hip.
We are going to have some pissed off email from one-hipped people coming your way, Vessel.
Well, that's fine. I can deal with that because I'm standing up for hipped people. You don't grab somebody by both hips. You grab them by the hips, don't you?
This was her secret weapon. She has like multiple hips. It's like, you know, like that He-Man villain whose head.
The human centipede.
Yeah. So, anyways, after this, it gets to be a real bummeroo. But yeah, although once they split up, Timber, she kind of moved on. Bella moved to Carson City, where with Tug, where she started a whorehouse. Or pardon me, she bought a fancy bawdy house, the Beehive. in the red light district of the railroad junction. For a while, Tug lived off Bella, but eventually, as she suspected what happened, he ran off with her money box. So she suspected this and did it anyways. I'm okay. Actually, I've met people who would do that, men and women. So anyways, but yeah, so obviously they were split. For a while, Timber, dressed as a man in white tights and a leopard skin shirt, did a weightlifting act. But that did not take on because she raged against the razzing from bored onlookers. "Hey, big girl, strip," the men would yell. "Come on, sister, let's see what you got where we ain't got what we got." One, I hate these people so much. And two, I feel so, this woman was meant to be like riding across the plains taking skulls. She should have a bag of heads hanging off her horse.
Like Predator.
You know, yeah, exactly. She should have a necklace of dicks.
Pickled dicks.
Pickled dicks, a necklace of pickled dicks. And instead she's, well, yeah, because they start to stink.
They do.
It's a whole thing. But yeah, instead she's trying to entertain these schmucks, and I hate it. I hate seeing great people brought low by commerce. But anyways, this has, if Phoenix is where it all went bad, which seems fitting for a town that has very few ghost stories, I might add.
It's got a ghost cat in its theatre.
Does it?
Is it the Orpheum? Yeah, it's Tom. Tom the ghost cat at the Orpheum Theatre.
Oh, okay.
And there's a ghost story about the previous owner as well, who was found mysteriously murdered in his office one night. Apparently shot peculiarly, but they don't expand on what made his shooting peculiar.
He shot himself in the head 6 times.
This week on Unsolved Mysteries. The police ruled it suicide. His family unsure.
A man with a huge insurance policy, recently increased by his wife, was found the victim of suicide, having shot himself in the chest and face 37 times.
I was watching one yesterday, actually, about a murder case with a doctor that was originally ruled a tragic accident, that his wife had slipped in the shower and smashed her head in and died. And it very quickly became apparent that there seemed to be blood spatter all round the bedroom, because they had like a walk-in bathroom in their bedroom.
Okay.
And then it came out that they were going through divorce. And then it came out that she was supposed to be leaving that house that day to move into her own apartment, which she just signed the lease for. And if by coincidence she slipped and smashed her head in. So they went to court, took him ages, they got him into court, and eventually they found him guilty. He appealed, but that was denied. However, it then came out that the jurors were in a WhatsApp group or text messaging.
Jesus.
But they were simply being told, people were asking about it, and they're saying, I can't talk about the case. But the defence said there was enough of these messages for it to be ruled like a spoilt jury. So they had to retrial it. And to the doctor's dismay, they actually had a better case when they went back to court, because they took these pictures to a blood spatter expert, a different one. And he was looking at the pictures and he said, "Oh, what's that on the headboard?" And they went, "What?" And he went, "That there, on the headboard, what's that?" And when they went, it was a piece of matter from inside your brain.
Oh, Jesus.
And if she'd fallen down in the shower, which was like 30 yards away from the bed, how's a piece of her brain stuck to the headboard? And where's the bedding gone? Because the housekeeper said, that's not the bedding I put on the day before. It was different bedding.
Oh.
And so it basically went even worse for him then, because then they'd now got matter on the bed that proved that she hadn't fallen down. And basically he beat her to death in the bed. And there was like 4 different impact points in the room. And so there was no way anybody who'd slipped and banged their head in the shower could have also fallen against a wall in the bedroom, fallen against a wall in a bathroom. And somebody said there was blood everywhere, not just in the shower. And so his story seemed to relay on the fact that he was a well-respected member of the local Jewish community, and he was also a very well-respected paediatrician in the area. And it was like, well, this guy's amazing. And then it all came out that, and he'd got a history of beating previous partners and that being abusive. His first wife said, I was a piece of shit. I divorced him. He used to beat me senseless.
Oh, God.
But it was mad. Absolutely crazy. And the worst thing was, he'd set the scene up so his daughter saw her as well. And so she basically was supporting his story, and it all started to fall apart because she's like, why did he tell you to go and get the phone downstairs when there's actually a phone next to where your mum's body is?
Yep, that seems reasonable.
And they were saying, well, why is he... So, yeah, he got life.
Well, good. I hope he fucking rots there.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, another one. Just, he thought he was cleverer than the forensics, but the forensics categorically proved that there was no way it happened in the way. It could not have happened any other way than a serious assault. And then obviously you got all this stuff about her leaving him and him being... It was all, money and control, sadly.
Damn, the oldest story in the book. Well, before we go to our final story, I found a similar mystery here from the Phoenix New Times. It's dated September 29th, 2005. Hours after the bizarre death last December of the city of Phoenix's chief financial officer, city officials blamed a brain parasite contracted in Mexico for his bizarre demise. Okay. Now, 9 months of extensive testing have eliminated the possibility that such a parasite called Kevin Keogh, 55, to crawl out of the window of his moving Mercedes-Benz and onto its roof before jumping off the passenger side and hitting a tree.
Yeah, what? So, he was driving his car, and he was able to keep that car moving at such a speed that he was able to carry on driving in a straight line, climb on top of his car, and then throw himself into a passing tree. Is that what they're saying?
Yes, I will read you the official report here. The bizarre incident occurred on Wednesday afternoon, December 8th, when the CFO's car was traveling east on Camelback Road at about 45 miles per hour. Witnesses told Scottsdale police that Keogh, after crawling onto the roof of the Benz, extended his arms outward for a second or two and then leaped off. He hit the tree and his body rolled along the edge of the thoroughfare. His driverless car continued down the road until it collided with another vehicle. He was pronounced dead at the scene.
Who were these witnesses? The hitmen?
Giuseppe Gunshoot and
Mario Bava.
And Billy Murder were both on hand. Said, no, we didn't see nothing. He's fine. He killed himself. Daily newspaper accounts of the incident quoted city officials as saying Keogh's widow Carlene maintained that a parasite contracted during a 2002 trip to Mexico had affected Keogh's brain and other parts of his body. According to a report in the Arizona Republic, city manager Frank Fairbanks said Keogh's widow believed his apparent suicide was, quote, related to the impacts of this disease on his central nervous system. And, but more important, the parasite excuse deflected attention from other possible factors in Keogh's death, including overwhelming job stress. However, now that the medical examiner has torpedoed this always unlikely explanation, city officials and Keogh's widow are refusing to comment.
It is sometimes you just think, oh, what? How stupid do they think people are?
Pretty stupid. But get this. So there are many mysterious circumstances surrounding this incident. For one, Carlene Keogh never mentioned a parasite as the possible cause of her husband's behavior when she was interviewed immediately after his death by Scottsdale police. In fact, she told police that her husband was in good health and the only medications in the house were allergy medicines and sleeping aids. Police found an October 2004 prescription for 5 milligrams of Valium inside Keogh's car. The toxicology report revealed no drugs or alcohol in his body and a normal amount of cold medicine. What his widow did tell police was that her husband of 4 years had been under severe stress at work. She said he was trying to get help and she felt he was just exhausted from working too much. Over the past week, he had been having trouble remembering things such as duties at his job and details surrounding his position. He had had trouble eating and sleeping and approximately a month ago stopped exercising and just talked of being tired and exhausted. He had never talked to suicide. He had never talked of hurting himself and never talked of hurting anyone else. His direct supervisor had not been treating him well, and he had a very bad day at work and came home, and they talked about getting him help. So it is sad because like a man died here, but it sure seems weird that his job is like brainworms, when no one else was. This guy who, is going through, it seems like there was some we'll say some fuckery happening, a little bit concern about impropriety. I won't say anything more specific, and all of a sudden he climbs out of his moving car onto the roof and jumps off.
You got to remember, you've got to be going you've got to be going fast enough to be able to not fall off the car, but also have enough speed up that if you hit something, it's going to hurt you. Because if you jump out of a car that's going at 5 miles an hour, right, and hit a tree, it's probably it's going to hurt, but it ain't going to kill you. You've got to be going fast enough for that impact to kill you.
Yeah, it raises some questions. Because that's 72 kilometers per hour. That's highway speed in some, maybe like close to highway speed here. How do you keep the car straight? This is, I had to share this one because it's a real fucking mystery.
When was this?
2005.
I mean, would cruise control do that?
I mean, it will keep you at a steady speed, but it's not going to keep the wheel straight. Yeah. So, anyways, that's a
tragic story there. Yes.
The strange, tragic death of Kevin Keogh, who totally killed himself, says nearby witness Barry Murder.
Yeah. So he'd uncovered something at the local office then, hadn't he?
Right. Yeah. The CFO dies under mysterious, insane circumstances, and his employers say he had a brainworm. I just picture them like pointing a gun at the reporter when they said this, like, he had a brainworm, right? Right? The reporter's like, yeah, man, yeah, 100% he had a brainworm. Fuck, that sucks. Those brainworms. Whew. Which is not to say such things can't happen. I actually know someone, who got something from the sand in Mexico. They got some fucked up from some parasite they got in the sand. And I know a woman who actually in Revelstoke who died because she took some kind of alternative medicine in India, and it had some kind of parasite that worked its way into her brain and eventually killed her. Like it rendered her completely nonverbal and then just killed her. So these things can happen, but I think if they're going to happen, one, your wife would know, and two, it might turn up on the medical exam, or the autopsy, which obviously in this case it did not.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of weird stuff. I mean, cryptosporidium's one that springs to mind, but that doesn't. I mean, it can only really be lethal in large amounts. And that's something you can pick up from contact with farm animals or water that's got urine in, animal urine.
Oh yeah, we used to call that beaver fever.
Yes, the famous clip. Beaver fever.
Yeah, back before we got water treatment in Revelstoke, that was a real concern. There would be times where we'd have to boil our water because of beaver fever.
Yes, I've seen a famous news clip or two talking about that.
It was a different time.
Yes. Unfortunately, the anchor couldn't handle it.
That's fair. I, of course, was too young at the time to understand why it was funny.
Yeah, it would have meant something very different here until beavers got reintroduced.
Oh, I believe it.
So, but yeah, I mean, there are strange parasites out there that can do that kind of thing, but not to the capacity that you would seem to be well enough to do your job and then just randomly go, nah, I've had enough now, 3 years later. Whee!
Yeah, no. There's fuckery afoot.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like that soldier that disappeared here in UK, and the excuse that they gave was, well, he liked to sleep in bins when he were drunk, so he will probably put in a rubbish bin and crushed to death. And that's why we've never found his body.
Seems very specific.
Yeah. I mean, I've never heard of anybody who, after a heavy night out, sleeps in a bin.
Nope. No, I've slept in alleys. I've never slept in bins.
And they've never found his body.
Well, that's because it was 100% crushed by a bin machine, but he did not go into that bin by choice.
So, yeah, there's always kinds of nonsense. I mean, we had that famous one here about that spy that was found stuffed in a holdall, and they said, oh, yeah, it was a sex game gone wrong, and he put himself in this bag. Well, how's he zipped it up then? You got a magnet in there with him? What? How stupid do you think we are?
He should have thrown himself off his moving car.
Just like... Oh, I remember there was a suicide, and it was ruled a suicide at the time until somebody pointed out, if it's a suicide, why is both his hands tied behind his back?
Oh, for Christ's sakes.
Was he a contortionist? Can he do it with his feet? Oh, yeah.
Agatha Christie's just whirling in her grave.
Sometimes. It's very difficult sometimes when you have to deal with conspiracies. And there's just, nutters out. Like a prime example, I saw a nutter on Instagram the other day saying that you have to swirl water before you drink it to unlock its full potential and turn it from H2O to H3O. I mean, this is...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just like, oh my God, who's buying this shit? And sometimes when I see stuff like that, and then I see reports about spies being found in black hole dolls dead that they did themselves, I sometimes think, are these New Age nutters the real nutters here? Or is it the MI5 telling us that?
I mean, nothing would surprise me at this point. I mean, most social media is effectively state-owned by someone at this point. So you're not. I don't think you're talking about something that's out of the realm of possibility.
There's more chance at Lemurians being under Mount Shasta than that guy putting himself in a bag.
Well, we're going to take one final ad break. If we both suddenly jump off of cars at high speeds, you know what happened. Our final story today is called Here and Gone Again. For background, I'm now 25. In middle school, I became best friends with a boy and a girl. We'll call them J for the boy and D for the girl. These kids were my lifeline in a dark time in my life, and I cannot stress enough how much I needed them then. I thought of them as my brother and sister. We planned our lives and how we would buy a farm with 3 houses and live our happy lives, but obviously that wasn't in the cards. J and D had a big falling out in the first year of high school. I remained friends with both, but Jay purposely distanced himself from me as high school progressed. He fell in love and married barely out of high school. Senior year, 2012, D died a violent and premature death in a car crash, and it wrecked me. I mourned for years, memorized her in 2 tattoos, and felt/feel her presence in multiple ways, and feel as if I call out to her, I can still reach her. The song she dedicated to me and the song that we last listened to frequently appear on the radio when I think of her. I dreamed a year or so back of seeing her again. I was 100% in this reality, in this dream. I was shocked she wasn't dead, and she offered an excuse as to why she faked her death. We talked throughout the dream and caught up on our jobs, lives. She was more mature, more slender, still had the same hair, braces gone, tattooed, now a woman like me. But I woke up back to real reality, where she never grew older than 17. What happened to Jay shocked me. We were no longer friends, but were keeping up on social media after he added me very shortly before what was about to happen. Last year, near Christmas, the healthy 24-year-old suffered his very first seizure and died that night. His young wife was left a widow. It seemed to be a complete shock to everyone in his life. It turned out he had an undiagnosed heart condition. I felt immensely sad by his tragic passing and lost life, but did not attend the funeral as I felt it wasn't my place. I never felt Jay's presence, nor have I called out to him, but I did mourn. The Jay everyone talks about on his Facebook page is a tall man with a deep voice and a goofy sense of humor. The Jay I knew was a little boy. The 3 of us did not feel so little at 12, but from my current perspective, we were very little. The Jay I knew was a kind, hard-working, stand-up boy. Our first interaction before becoming friends in 7th grade was in 6th grade, with him scolding someone/defending me from another kid bullying me. "Don't make fun of the new girl," he said, then met me with a soft smile. He rode his bike 20 to 30 miles around the 110-degree city of Phoenix to meet Dee and I while we were lazy and took the bus. Leaving my neighborhood to drive to work yesterday, I noticed a familiar bike with features I remember on his. Like the bars on the back wheel his little brother would stand on while holding his shoulders to hitch a ride. I think nothing of it until I notice other features on the rider. A young kid, maybe 13, shaggy brown hair about 3 inches from his shoulders like he had in middle school. A baseball cap like all 3 of us would wear. A baggy t-shirt and jeans like he would wear. This kid looked at me for solid seconds, though I had only a moment to glance at him and observe that I couldn't see a feature on this rider that wasn't like a child version of Jay. I turned out on a main road and he turned and began heading the same way. I got stuck at a light about 2 blocks down. The kid was still riding in my direction, and at this moment, the kid was still riding in my direction. I was waiting for him to ride up closer so I'd be able to get a look at this kid, just shake this idea from my mind that it was Jay. I I had an intuition that if I looked away, he would be gone. So I directed my attention to the road, and when I looked back in my rearview mirror, sure enough, he wasn't there anymore. And I just wanted to end on that. I don't really have a lot to say, but it seemed a nice way to end this quick little look at the haunting of Phoenix. Of course, in tribute to the late great Marc Semler, who will be missed. I recorded an episode of Host Adventures telling patrons what had happened about a few days ago, and as I was recording it, a post from him popped up in the Facebook group because he had obviously programmed a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And even now he's got auto stuff set up to like welcome new people to the group. It's just so fucking weird. But I'm going to be sad when the last of them, finally goes out.
Yes. Ride easy, Mark, wherever you are, my friend.
Amen to that. And to Christine too, who is apparently has left us as well. So that's going to do it for the haunting of Phoenix. But if you have a story you'd like to send us, we would love, love, love to read it. Send it to ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. You can also fill out the form on our website at ghoststoryguys.com. You can find us on Instagram as The Ghost Story Guys. You can find us on Facebook as The Ghost Story Guys Cabin. We have just opened a Discord. It's in limited access right now. We're going to be opening it to patrons first. And then once we sort of get a handle on it, we'll open it up to the listener base at large. So we'll have a place that's free from the bullshit of social media. We can all hang out periodically, talk spooky, talk movies, talk bullshit. Again, we'll make that available ASAP once we bang out the dents. And of course, we're on Reddit as r/Ghost Story Guys podcast. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hey there, listeners. Before you reach for that skip 15 seconds ahead button, I promise you this isn't an ad. We wanted to take a minute to talk to you about mental health. On this show, I've always tried to be as honest and open as possible about my struggles with depression and anxiety, because even though we've come a long way towards acknowledging the very real damage these things can do, there is still way too much lingering stigma about reaching out for help. And when you start to feel like there's no help, it's easy to start feeling like there's no hope. But Paul has joined me today to remind you there is always hope and there's always help.
We're not going to try and talk you out of self-harming right now, because we know that's not how it works. Instead, what we wanted to do was tell you something now and hope that should things get bad, you'll remember it and make a phone call or send a text message before you make any permanent decisions. As someone who knows all too well just how important mental health can be, it's never too late to reach out.
In Canada, the number to call is 133-456-4566. In the USA, the new number to call is 988. That's 988.
In the UK, the number to call is 116123, or text SHOUT, that's SHOUT, to 85258. In Australia, the number to call is 131114.
However bad shit seems, it will pass. And no matter what your brain might be telling you at any given moment, and believe me when I say I know this intimately, there are people who love you and people who care deeply about how you treat yourself. Should a time come when you find yourself despairing, please know that we've both been where you are, and there is a way back to the world. Take care. Welcome back. The Ghost Story Guys are Luke Greensmith, who helps us find our stories. He's also host of the Luke Lore podcast, available everywhere fine podcasts live.
Paranormal conductor is Mr. Brennan Storr.
And of course, my friend and co-host is the one, the only, the inimitable Paul Bestel, the paranormal Johnny Carson himself, host of Mysteries and Monsters. Paul, what's coming up on M&M?
I'm diving back into the world of Bigfoot with the host of Sasquatch Outpost, Brian King Sharp, as we dive into some of his experiences and incidents that he's witnessed both on his property in the Carolinas, as well as some of the more famous locations around the States, which is a very good and very balanced, open-minded conversation about Bigfoot and some of the characters that infest certain parts of it.
Oh, I can't wait for that one. And where can everyone find you online?
You can find Mysteries and Monsters across most social media networks and podcast sites.
Fabulous. I'm largely the truth on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd. You can find my horror fiction show Fear Daily, which I co-author with Brandon Scheck-Snyder, everywhere fine podcasts live. And of course, you can find me narrating audiobooks on Audible. As we said at the top of the show, none of this is possible without our patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. Without you guys, we would be hooped beyond belief, and we are deeply grateful for every single one of you. And if you want to get access to a fabulous community of very cool people, early ad-free release, bonus shows, extra conversations between myself and Paul, our monthly live stream, and our Ghost Force shoutouts, you can get that by clicking the link in the show notes or by heading to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. And of course, if you support the show at the $20 level, that makes you part of an elite club. The only club that you can buy your way into and still be cool. That's a little club we like to call Ghost Force. That's right. Even when everything sucks and we're really feeling shitty, Ghost Force is still here.
Woo.
Patrons who are members of Ghost Force get thanked here every second episode because you're crazy and we love you for it.
Yeah.
This time around, the members of Ghost Force are
Ethan Saragon,
Amy Chamberlain,
Crazy Man Canada,
CT,
Dextrous,
Eric Abel,
Anna Brown,
Jade Moores,
Janani Bananani,
Johnny Mononati, Jennifer Mullen,
Joseph Comer,
Liam Hudock,
Marc Semler,
Merlin Hansen,
Michelle Randall,
Peter Gunn 08.5,
Woo! Rockin' Ronnie Shenanigans,
Shannon Steyer,
Trash Panda Kit,
and Trent Kenner.
There he blows.
You are the few. You are the spooky. You are Ghost Force. For real, guys, thank you so much. We deeply appreciate your support. I know times are tough. We've seen we've seen some solid declines in Ghost Force, and hey, we still love you. Don't worry about it. Come back when you can, and even if you don't, we still love you. We just appreciate your support. We appreciate you listening. It is a strange time, so we are all just doing the best we can. Paul, my friend, do you have any guest spots coming up?
Not at the moment. I have a few being penciled in as we speak.
Very cool. We're going to be on I think next month, we're going to be on an episode of Cryptid Cocktail Party.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be in about a month's time. I was recently a guest on the show Tell Me Your Ghost Story, hosted by Cassie Askin. And guys, if you're not listening to Tell Me Your Ghost Story, it's very similar in format to Monsters Among Us. Just one guest per show every 2 weeks. And Cassie's had enormous success. She's doing really well, and deservedly so. She's a very cool person. We had a blast talking. We were supposed to be on the phone for half an hour. We were on for 2 hours. So anytime that happens, that's a good sign. And so, again, you can check that out. Tell Me Your Ghost Story. My spot won't be out until March or April. She actually reminds me of you, Paul, in that she is so well organized that it is both admirable and deeply infuriating.
I am slacking a bit. I've only got 3 shows in the can at the minute.
Gasp.
Yeah, be double that by this time next week.
Of course it will, you fucker.
I'm excited. I've got somebody I've been really looking forward to speaking to ever since I started the show. So I've got that coming up. So that's going to be fun.
Oh, very cool. And I will also be I also just recorded a spot on Where Did the Road Go? That was talking about missing people. See if you can spot the part where I fall asleep. Joining an elite club of only now 3 people who have fallen asleep on the air on Soraya's show. Josh Cutchin, Red Pill Junkie, and now yours truly, this guy, Brennan Storr.
Well, as I said to you, there are far worse situations you can find yourself in, my friend, in life that you can fall asleep in that probably aren't as amusing, speaking from personal experience.
So yes, that's Where Did the Road Go? And of course, you'll find all of both mine and Paul's appearances linked in the blog at ghoststoryguys.com. Speaking of ghoststoryguys.com, if you want to pick up some merch, you can head there and grab stickers, t-shirts, all kinds of goodies. And as I mentioned just a little while ago, you can also fill out the form there and send us your story, your comment, your question, anything you want. Again, that's all at ghoststoryguys.com. Our theme song, of course, is Radio, Into the Darkness We Go, composed and performed by Peter Kursov of Podzonta Music. Find more from him by searching for Podzonta Music wherever you get your tunes. They are streaming courtesy, of course, of Night Harvest Recordings, and that is the Ghost Story Guys house label. And I think that's going to do it.
We'll be back next week, but until then,
Into the darkness we go. Stop drilling, you've hit oil.
have you seen a clip that's for some reason resurfaced recently? That someone's got a clip from the Roger Corman version of the Fantastic Four?
Oh, no.
At the end where they get married. Is it that one or is it from the first Fantastic Four? I'm trying to remember if it's the Corman film or the first new Fantastic Four when they had Jessica Alba and Ifus Evan, is it? I can't remember his name. Who was the guy in the 2 Fox Fantastic Fours from the noughties, from Chris Evans' Human Torch?
Mr. Fantastic?
Yeah, the Welsh guy.
Ewan Griffith.
That's it. Can't remember his name. And I can't remember it's that, but there's that bit where he's like, they're driving off in a limo and they've got that really shit long arm hanging out the sunroof, waving.
Oh, I'm not sure. That wouldn't surprise me.
I can't remember if it's from that first one of them or it's from the Corman film, which I've only seen once on VHS.
Well, let's find out here. Mr. Fantastic. Oh, it's from the Corman version.
Oh, thank God for that. I was beginning to think I'd forgotten that bit from that one. How bad is that? Okay. Yellow card.
Okay.
That is the warning signal. Yeah, you'll not be getting that invite to Mar-a-Lago now, mate. I'd like to see you with some pucked up lips.
Problem. No problem. I don't know what the problem is. This is consistent with my ideology from the beginning.
You look lovely. It's a shame your heart's black.